I think AI is one of the biggest threats. We have a situation where there's something that is going to be far smarter than the smartest human. We're not stronger or faster than other creatures, but we are more intelligent. And here we are for the first time, really in human history, with something that's going to be far more intelligent than us. It's not clear to me we can actually control such a thing, but I think we can aspire to guide it in a direction that's beneficial to humanity. But I do think it's one of the existential risks that we face, and it's potentially the most pressing one.
Making some sort of digital superintelligence seems like it could be dangerous. What I think the biggest danger is for AI is if AI is implicitly programmed, I don't think they can do it explicitly, but implicitly programmed with values that lead to, that have led to the destruction of downtown San Francisco, and a bunch of these AI companies are either in San Francisco or in the San Francisco Bay Area, then you could implicitly program an AI to believe that extinction of humanity is what it should try to do. If you take that guy who was on the front page of the New York Times and you take his philosophy, which is prevalent in San Francisco, the AI could conclude, like he did, that there are where he literally says there are 8 billion people in the world, it would be better if there were none, and engineer that outcome. If you're saying what is the most likely outcome of AI, I think the most likely outcome, to be specific about it, is a good outcome. Most likely a good outcome, but it's not for sure. I think we have to be careful how we program the AI and make sure that it is not accidentally anti-human. The accidentally extinctionist AI. You wouldn't want that.
Or even pruning.
That is how it works, is that these, what they call large language models, is really just a big pile of numbers. And how you tune those numbers matters. It's like pruning a tree. You could have a mighty oak. You could be a little bonsai or a mighty oak, depending on how you prune it. I'm just generally concerned about AI safety, but it's like, what should we do about it? Have some kind of regulatory oversight of some kind. It's like you can't just go build a nuclear bomb in your backyard. That's against the law, and you'll get thrown in prison if you do that. We should just be concerned about AI being anti-human. That's sort of the thing that matters.
This tends to plague smart people. They just can't. They define themselves by their intelligence, and they don't like the idea that a machine could be way smarter than them. So they discount the idea, which is fundamentally flawed. This is the wishful thinking situation. I'm very close to the cutting edge in AI. And it scares the hell out of me. It's capable of vastly more than almost anyone knows. And the rate of improvement is exponential. I'm not normally an advocate of regulation and oversight. I think one should generally err on the side of minimizing those things. But this is a case where you have a very serious danger to the public. And therefore, there needs to be a public body that has insight and then oversight to confirm that everyone is developing AI safely. This is extremely important. I think the danger of AI is much greater than the danger of nuclear warheads by a lot. And nobody would suggest that we allow anyone to just build nuclear warheads if they want. That would be insane. And mark my words, AI is far more dangerous than nukes. Far. So why do we have no regulatory oversight? This is insane. If humanity collectively decides that creating digital superintelligence is the right move, then we should do so very carefully. This is the most important thing that we could possibly do.
The thing that's going to be tricky here is that it's going to be very tempting to use AI as a weapon. It's going to be very tempting. In fact, it will be used as a weapon. So the on-ramp to serious AI, the danger is going to be more humans using it against each other, I think. Most likely, that'll be the danger. I try to convince people to slow down AI, to regulate AI. This was futile. I tried for years.
This seems like a scene in a movie where the robots are going to take over and you're freaking me out. Nobody listened.
Nobody listened.
No one.
I think people don't. Normally, the way that regulations work is very slow. It's very slow indeed. Usually, there'll be some new technology that will cause damage or death. There will be rulemaking. Then there will be oversight, eventually regulations. This all takes many years. This is the normal course of things. And how long did it take for seatbelts to be implemented, to be required? The auto industry fought seatbelts, I think, for more than a decade. If you had a seatbelt on, you would be far less likely to die or be seriously injured. It was unequivocal. Eventually, after many people died, regulators insisted on seatbelts. This time frame is not relevant to AI. You can't take 10 years from the point at which it's dangerous. It's too late. It's a singularity. It's hard to predict, like a black hole, what happens past the event horizon.
So once it's implemented, it's very different because it will
once
be able to...
Once the genie's out of the bottle, what's going to happen?
And it will be able to improve itself.
Yes. It could be terrible and it could be great. It's not clear.
The danger, really, AI is perhaps more dangerous than mismanaged aircraft design or production maintenance or bad car production, in the sense that it has the potential, however small one may regard that probability, but it is non-trivial. It has the potential of civilizational destruction. There's movies like Terminator, but it wouldn't quite happen like Terminator because the intelligence would be in the data centers. The robot's just the end effector. But I think perhaps what you may be alluding to here is that regulations are really only put into effect after something terrible has happened.
That's correct.
If that's the case for AI, and we only put in regulations after something terrible has happened, it may be too late to actually put the regulations in place. The AI may be in control at that point.
You think that's real? It is conceivable that AI could take control and reach a point where you couldn't turn it off and it would be making decisions for people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely.
No, that's definitely the way things are headed, for sure. It is fundamentally profound in that the smartest creatures as far as on this earth are humans. It is our defining characteristic.
Yes.
We're obviously weaker than, say, chimpanzees and less agile, but we are smarter. Now, what happens when something vastly smarter than the smartest person comes along in silicon form? It's very difficult to predict what will happen in that circumstance. It's called the singularity. It's a singularity like a black hole, because you don't know what happens after that. It's hard to predict. So I think we should be cautious with AI. I think there should be some government oversight because it affects it's a danger to the public. And so when you have things that are a danger to the public, let's say, so food and drugs, that's why we have the Food and Drug Administration, right, and the Federal Aviation Administration, the FCC. We have these agencies to oversee things that affect the public, where there could be public harm. And you don't want companies cutting corners on safety and then having people suffer as a result. That's why I've actually for a long time been a strong advocate of AI regulation. So that I think regulation it's not fun to be regulated. It's somewhat arduous to be regulated. I have a lot of experience with regulated industries because obviously automotive is highly regulated. You could fill this room with all the regulations that are required for a production car just in the United States. And then there's a whole different set of regulations in Europe and China and the rest of the world. I'm familiar with being overseen by a lot of regulators. And the same thing is true with rockets. You can't just willy-nilly shoot rockets off, not big ones anyway, because the FAA oversees that. And then even to get a launch license, there are half a dozen or more federal agencies that need to approve it, plus state agencies. I've been through so many regulatory situations, it's insane. And sometimes people think I'm some sort of like regulatory maverick that sort of defies regulators on a regular basis, but this is actually not the case. Once in a blue moon, rarely I will disagree with regulators, but the vast majority of the time, my companies agree with the regulations and comply. Anyway, so I think we should take this seriously, and we should have a regulatory agency. I think it needs to start with a group that initially seeks insight into AI, then solicits opinion from industry, and then has proposed rulemaking, and then those rules will hopefully grudgingly be accepted by the major players in AI. And I think we'll have a better chance of AI being beneficial to humanity in that circumstance. There's great potential for good, but there's also potential for bad. And if you've got some radical new technology, you want to try to take a set of actions that maximize the probability it will do good and minimize the probability it will do bad things.
But can you be more precise about what's potentially dangerous and scary? What could it do? What specifically are you worried about?
If you have a super intelligent AI that is capable of writing incredibly well and in a way that is very influential, convincing, and is constantly figuring out what is more convincing to people over time, and then enters social media, for example, Twitter, but also Facebook and others, and potentially manipulates public opinion in a way that is very bad. How would we even know?
Since I was immersed in technology, I have been immersed in technology for a long time, I could see it coming. But I think this year there have been a number of breakthroughs, the point at which someone can see a dynamically created video of themselves. So you can make a video of you saying anything in real time, or me. And so there's the deepfake videos, which are really incredibly good. In fact, sometimes more convincing than real ones, and deep real. And then obviously things like ChatGPT were quite remarkable. Now I saw GPT-1, GPT-2, GPT-3, GPT-4, the whole sort of lead up to that. So it was easy for me to see where it's going. If you just extrapolate the points on a curve,
and assume that trend will continue, then we will have profound artificial intelligence, and obviously at a level that far exceeds human intelligence. And I do think overall that the potential is there for artificial intelligence, AI, to have most likely a positive effect and to create a future of abundance where there is no scarcity of goods and services. But it is somewhat of the magic genie problem, where if you have a magic genie that can grant all the wishes, usually those stories don't end well. Be careful what you wish for, including wishes. The pace of AI is faster than any technology I've seen in history by far. And it seems to be growing in capability by at least 5-fold, perhaps 10-fold per year. It'll certainly grow by an order of magnitude next year.
Yeah.
So, and government isn't used to moving at that speed. But I think even if there are not firm regulations, even if there isn't an enforcement capability, simply having insight and being able to highlight concerns to the public will be very powerful. Even if that's all that's accomplished, I think that will be very good. We'll get to the point where you've got open source AI that will start to approach human level intelligence or perhaps exceed it. I don't know quite what to do about it. I think it's somewhat inevitable that there'll be some amount of open source, and I guess I would have a slight bias towards open source, because at least you can see what's going on. Whereas closed source, you don't know what's going on. Now, it should be said with AI that even if it's open source, do you actually know what's going on? Right. Because if you've got a gigantic data file and billions of data points or weights and parameters, you can't just read it and see what it's going to do. That's a gigantic file of inscrutable numbers. You can test it when you run it. You can test it. You can run a bunch of tests to see what it's going to do, but it's probabilistic as opposed to deterministic. It's not like traditional programming where you've got very discrete logic and the outcome is very predictable and you can read each line and see what each line's going to do. A neural net is just a whole bunch of probabilities. It ends up being a giant comma-separated value file. Our digital God is a CSV file? Really? Okay, but that is what it is. It's hard to say exactly what that moment is, but there will come a point where no job is needed. You can have a job if you want to have a job for sort of personal satisfaction, but the AI will be able to do everything. I don't know if that makes people comfortable or uncomfortable. It's why I say if you wish for a magic genie, that gives you any wishes you want, and there's no limit. You don't have those three wish limit nonsense. You just have as many wishes as you want. It's both good and bad. One of the challenges in the future will be, how do we find meaning in life? If you have a magic genie that can do everything you want. When there's new technology, it tends to usually follow an S-curve. In this case, we're going to be on the exponential portion of the S-curve for a long time. And we have to ask for anything. We won't have universal basic income. We'll have universal high income. So in some sense, it'll be somewhat of a leveler or an equalizer, because really, I think everyone will have access to this magic genie, and you'll be able to ask any question. It'll certainly be good for education. It'll be the best tutor you could, and the most patient tutor. So they're all there, and there will be no shortage of goods and services. We'll be an age of abundance. That'll give you a sense of what is a fairly utopian or protopian future with AI. I don't think the AI is going to try to destroy all humanity, but it might put us under strict controls. And there's no non-zero chance of it going Terminator. It's not 0%, but I think it's a small likelihood of annihilating humanity, but it's not zero. We want the probability to be zero, as close to zero as possible. And then, like I said, of AI assuming control, the safety of all the humans, and taking over all the computing systems and weapon systems of Earth, and effectively being like some sort of Uber nanny. Everything will be automatic. There'll be household robots that you can fully talk to as though there are people that can help you around the house or be a companion or whatever the case may be. There will be humanoid robots throughout factories, and cars will also be all automatic. And anything where intelligence can be applied, even modest intelligence, will be automated. I think people should be really concerned about it. I keep sounding the alarm bell, but until people see robots going down the street killing people, they don't know how to react because it seems so ethereal. And I think we should be really concerned about AI. And I think AI is a rare case where I think we need to be proactive in regulation instead of reactive. Because I think by the time we are reactive in AI regulation, it's too late. Normally the way regulations are set up is that a whole bunch of bad things happen. There's a public outcry. And then after many years, a regulatory agency is set up to regulate that industry. And there's a bunch of opposition from companies who don't like being told what to do by regulators. And it takes forever. In the past, it has been bad, but not something which represented a fundamental risk to the existence of civilization. AI is a fundamental risk to the existence of human civilization in a way that car accidents, airplane
crashes, faulty drugs, or bad food were not. They were not. They were harmful to a set of individuals within society, of course, but they were not harmful to society as a whole. AI is a fundamental existential risk for human civilization. This is really like the scariest problem to me. I'll tell you. I really think we need government regulation here, just because this is ensuring the public good is served. Because you've got companies that are racing, that they kind of have to race to build AI, or they're going to be made uncompetitive. Like essentially, if your competitor is racing to build AI and you don't, they will crush you. So then you're like, we don't want to be crushed. So, I guess we need to build it too. So that's where you need the regulators to come in and say, hey guys, you all need to really pause and make sure this is safe. And like when it's cool and we're convinced and the regulators are convinced that it's safe to proceed, then you can go. But otherwise, slow down.
We could definitely make a city or Moss self-sustaining without AI or without sort of AGI, which is generally artificial general intelligence or superintelligence. So I think it's not necessary for anything we're doing, but it is happening and happening very quickly. There is a risk that advanced AI either eliminates or constrains humanity's growth